This week from GNC Week in Review, powered by GeekNewsCentral.com. Sony unveils its PS5, Samsung may launch a 8 terabyte hard drive, and Verizon launches 5G in Detroit. Those are some of the tech news stories from this week. It's Friday, June 12th, 2020. My name is Kirk Corliss, and it's episode 61 of the GNC Week in Review podcast, part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Thank you so much for tuning in. For this week's episode, we are streaming live on Facebook.com/GNC Week in Review, also on YouTube at GNC Week in Review. So please be sure to say hello in chat or comment. Also, be sure to like and subscribe to the GNC WIR channel on YouTube. If you miss a live video, it's okay. You can always catch the replay later. If you are a new listener, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We can find on the right-hand side column at gncweekly.com, be it Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, your favorite podcast app for Android, or on TuneIn, Spotify, or Stitcher. You have a comment, be it on social media or email, and all the links for that can be found at gncweekly.com/connect. News is a little bit light this week, so we're going to jump in with tech news from this week and from GeekNewsCentral.com. And the top story this week is Sony has finally revealed what the PlayStation 5 looks like. There was a live stream event that was held this week, and they went over an hour of PS5 game announcements. After the announcements, they revealed the hardware design for its PS5 this week. The PS5 stands vertically, like the Xbox Series X. It's primarily designed to be placed and will include two versions, one with a 4K Blu-ray drive and a pure digital edition. But Sony hasn't mentioned prices just yet. They just simply revealed design during its live stream. They also haven't provided any release dates or of either variant of the PS5. The PS5 can be placed vertically or horizontally underneath a TV or monitor. Sony has built a stand that works for either orientation, and the company is using what looks like a slightly different stand for the digital edition of the PS5. The top of the PS5 unit also is showing that it will have vents for heat dissipation with USB-A and USB-C ports at the front. Sony also has created a number of accessories for PS5, including a DualSense charging station, a new HD camera, a Pulse 3D wireless headset, and a media remote. Sony has not announced any pricing for any of these accessories, or whether they will launch alongside the new PS5 consoles. The consoles will arrive in the holiday season and is powered by an 8-core AMD Zen 2 CPU and a custom AMD RDNA 2 based GPU. Sony's also using a proprietary SSD solutions to boost load time for games. The SSD will provide 825 gigabytes of storage and 5.5 gigabytes of performance. Sony is requiring that all games are to be installed in the internal SSD to make use of the read speeds. So the PS5, will also support 8K graphics, 4K graphics at 120 hertz refresh rate, and 3D audio. A listing on Amazon has been discovered for a Samsung QVO SSD with 8 terabytes of storage. The price for one is $900. Also, according to Tom's Hardware, it will most likely be using Samsung's QLC 3DV NAND technology, similar to the QVO's 860 SSDs, meaning they are focused more on storage rather than performance. And it's also been reported that doesn't mean that it'll be slow. The listing also suggests that the 8 terabyte model will be available for order from the 24th of August onwards, and the 1 terabyte model is currently listed as being available on June 30th. Verizon announced Wednesday that Detroit Metro residents has access to its 5G home internet service, which allows users to access speeds up to 1 gigabyte per second for $50 per month for Verizon Wireless customers and $70 for everyone else. Detroit is the only sixth city to get availability since the service launched in October 2018. Along with greater speeds, the 5G home internet service is available with no annual contract and has no hidden fees. Verizon says services can be set up by the customer, avoiding the visit from a installer normally required with new services. Customers will also receive access to a free month of YouTube TV, Disney Plus for 1 year, and a 3-month trial of Google's Stadia streaming gaming service. Speaking of 5G, Business Insider is reporting that Twitter is now fact-checking tweets that link 5G and the COVID-19 pandemic by adding a label that promises to get users, quote, the facts about COVID-19. Clicking the label takes you to a Twitter page titled, quote, no, 5G isn't causing coronavirus. That includes links to news reports, fact-checking organizations, and government agencies debunking the conspiracy theory. Twitter confirmed the move in a statement Twitter confirmed the move in a statement given to Business Insider, quote, last month we announced that we are introducing new labels and warning messages to provide additional context and information on some tweets containing disputed or misleading information related to COVID-19. The spokesperson added that the company will only remove tweets entirely when it contains, quote, a call to action that can potentially cause harm, but, quote, will not take enforcement action on every tweet that contains incomplete or disputed information about COVID-19. Excuse me, I had to take a little bit of drink. Apple has announced its WWDC schedule. The WWDC keynote will take place at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on June 22nd. And there's learning more information about the future of iOS, iPad OS, Watch iOS, TV OS, Mac OS, and more. Apple will follow the keynote with its platform's State of the Union address at 5 p.m. Eastern, which it says it will be available on demand. Engineering sessions will take place from June 23rd to June 26th. You'll be able to watch the keynote, which will stream from the Apple Park campus on the company's main website, the developer app and website, the Apple TV app, and YouTube. And we'll have a complete wrap-up of all announcements from that keynote on what was announced that week. Uber and Lyft drivers are classified as employees. This is from the California Public Utilities Commission. They officially ruled on this. The regulator, which oversees ride-hailing companies, decided its decision in an order published on Tuesday. It said, quote, a person providing labor or services, providing labor or services for remuneration that shall be considered an employee rather than independent contractor under AB5, the state's new law governing gig work, which becomes effective on January 1st, 2020. In its order, the commission mentioned that Uber filed a lawsuit in federal court to prevent drivers from being classified as employees under AB5. It is also noted that Uber and Lyft successfully, quote, placed on the November 2020 ballot a measure that would exclude all app-based drivers from AB5. The lawsuit and ballot don't affect the commission's authority over ride-hailing services, though. So the drivers are, quote, presumed to be employees. That means the regulator must ensure that ride-hailing services, quote, comply with those requirements that are applicable to the employees of an entity subject to the commission's jurisdiction. If you're watching live on the stream, we're going to go into the next block of do you need, if I get the words out, do you need help with your tech? And over on, we're going to pull this up here. There we go. Okay. Over on makeuseof.com, it's the 10 best shows to watch on Apple TV Plus, and also all this the information. Do you need help Do you need help with your tech? Is going to be in the show notes. First up, the morning show. Number 2, For All Mankind. Number 3, Dickinson. Number 4, Defending Jacob. Number 5, Home Before Dark. And I'll have a link of all the rest of it in the show notes on gncweekly.com in this episode 61. Over on AndroidCentral.com, how to manage the apps on your Chromebook. It'll walk you through how step-by-step on how to organize your Chromebook apps, how to manage permissions, how to install apps, and also it'll give you the great guide and step-by-step on how to do that. Over on the Verge.com, the best free apps for video calling. There's we all know everyone's using Zoom. We all know about Zoom. There's also Skype, Cisco WebEx, Google Meet, and Google Duo. And there's more on this Hangouts, and I'll have a link up in the show notes so you can check out on the best free video call apps. Over on CNET.com, learning how to code with these 5 online classes. It'll walk you through on, for example, coding for beginners with Applause Interactive. There's pre-programming, everything to know before you code with Evan Kimbrell, and I'll have a link up in the show notes on that. Also on CNET.com, the best external hard drive and SSD in 2020 for Mac, PC, PS4, and Xbox. And it'll give great tips or guides, on what to choose from. You have the mini 1 terabyte USB-C SSD from RAV Power. The best value for PS4, the Seagate Game Drive 4 terabyte. The best value for Xbox One, WD Black PT P10S 5 terabyte with 2 months of Game Pass Ultimate, and I will link up in the show notes on that. And finally, over on, didn't mean to do that to you guys. Over on AndroidCentral.com, how to properly clean and disinfect your Android phone. It'll walk you through step by step on what to do, what products to use, etc. And I'll have that also in the show notes on GNC. This episode of GNC Weekly on GNC Weekly Review podcast for this episode. And and finally this week, an Apple Store customer is trying to sue Apple for, get ready for this, for $1 trillion. You heard right, $1 trillion, after he claims an employee kept his iPhone and downloaded, quote, new features, then, quote, labeled him as, quote, crazy. Ravon Terrell Parker alleges in the filings he went to, in the court filings, he went to the Apple Store in St. Louis Gallery in St. Louis on October 29th, 2018, quote, from records are showing, quote, for a malfunction of his cellular device. The papers also state the attendant in the Apple Store, quote, the attendant in the Apple Store fixed the device, but kept it by deceiving the plaintiff, knowing that it was the first phone to have new features. He is seeking $1 trillion in damages, attributing for whatever reason this amount is, for this is being attributed to, quote, hospitalizations, travel, distress, humiliation, embarrassment, defamation of character. Also, he added, Mr. Parker added, quote, I don't think the plaintiff can be compensated for being labeled crazy. The new features that he's referring to the filing are meant to expedite the passcode login process when users are wearing face masks and therefore cannot use Face ID, according to separate court papers. They also include Apple's contact tracing technology introduced in the wake of the novel coronavirus, and an option related to, quote, group FaceTime calls. Not only this is not the first time he did this. He tried to sue Apple in the past over the iPhone mishap. That time he was claiming quote $2 priceless trillion, but a judge dismissed the case. In that earlier suit, this was filed on March 28th, 2019. He sought claims of $1 trillion each for iPhone 7 and iOS 12, and separate $900 claim for the iPhone 7. This is all from the court papers. He also listed in the claim section his own mentality, which he viewed as, quote, $ priceless. In that filing, he explained that the Apple Store employee, quote, fixed the phone, kept it, and I was given a different phone. He also sought compensation for discovery of the group FaceTime failure. I'm not calling this man any names, but this lawsuit is completely crazy. When I looked into the doing my news stories for this week, and this came into one of my alerts earlier this afternoon. This broke. I don't know if it's broke, but when I saw this was like the most. I cannot believe someone will. He's trying to sue Apple for $1 trillion, and I'm surprised Apple's not going to sue. I'm surprised that Apple's not going to sue Apple or countersue him for filing this ridiculous lawsuit. And there is no way he's going to win this. There's no way there's no way that this gentleman's going to win $1 trillion. OMG. And that is the tech news for this week for Friday, June 12th, 2020. It's a little bit of a very short episode, light tech news for this week. And Scott is not with us this evening. So I'm doing this solo, so it's a little short and getting some had a little bit of light news, so figure I want to get this out for you all. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's episode. Show notes from this episode can be found at gncweekly.com. Also, be sure to check out the latest tech news and commentary from geeknewscentral.com, and be sure to tune in Mondays and Thursday evenings at geeknewscentral.com/live for the Geek News Central podcast. And then be sure and watch and tune in to the live stream on the GNC WIR Facebook live page or on YouTube's page Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. And again, you can always catch the replays at a later time if need be. If you have a comment on this week's episode, we'd love to hear from them. Head on over to gncweekly.com/connect. Connect via either email, weekendreview@gmail.com, Twitter, the page is at GNC Weekly, or Facebook, GNC Week in Review. I am on Twitter. I am at Kirk Corliss, which is, I'm going to pull up my lower third in a second for you guys watching. We'll do that right now. Give me a second. Okay, just trying a little all over the place here for. Okay, get rid of this. Okay, it's on the, if you can see, whoop, there we go. Lower left-hand corner in the bottom there. I am at Kirk Corliss, which is spelled KIRK. CORLESS, and we'll be back next week on the GNC Week in Review podcast. Till then, so long.